relationships are not built in moments of perfection. They are built in moments of choice. Choice to stay, choice to listen, choice to soften when your instinct is to harden. Too many people walk into relationships believing love is something that happens to them like weather, like luck. But love is not passive. Love is an action you take every single day, especially on the days when it feels inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unrewarding. The truth is, real relationships will challenge you. They will expose parts of you that you didn't know were still wounded. They will hold up a mirror and ask, are you willing to grow? Or are you committed to staying the same? And that question is where most relationships either deepen or dissolve, because growth requires humility, and humility requires courage. You see, commitment isn't proven when everything is easy. Commitment is proven when communication feels heavy, when misunderstandings pile up, when silence becomes tempting. It's proven when you choose clarity over pride, honesty over avoidance, and effort over excuses. Love isn't about winning arguments, it's about protecting the connection. And let's be clear, healthy relationships are not about losing yourself. They are about becoming more of who you truly are. The right relationship doesn't shrink you, it strengthens you. It doesn't demand perfection, it invites presence. It doesn't silence your voice, it teaches you how to use it with respect and intention. But here's the part many people don't want to hear. Relationships require responsibility, not just for how you feel, but for how you make others feel. Words matter, tone matters, timing matters, the way you show up matters, and when things break, and they will repair, matters more than blame ever will. Love is found in the willingness to say, I was wrong, without keeping score. It's found in patience when progress is slow, in consistency when passion fluctuates, and in trust built brick by brick, not demanded overnight. Real intimacy grows when people feel emotionally safe, not emotionally tested. And sometimes the most powerful act of love is not holding on, but letting go with grace. Because not every relationship is meant to last forever, but every relationship is meant to teach you something about boundaries, about self-worth, about what you will no longer tolerate and what you now deeply value. The goal is not to avoid heartbreak. The goal is to become resilient enough, self-aware enough, and loving enough to experience connection without losing yourself in it. To love deeply without fear controlling your behavior. To stand firm in your values while staying open in your heart. Because at the end of the day, relationships are not about finding someone to complete you. They are about walking beside someone while you both continue becoming. And when two people choose growth over ego, understanding over assumption, and love over convenience, something extraordinary begins to happen. Something that transforms not just the relationship, but the people within it. And that's why every relationship you enter is an opportunity to practice empathy, to practice patience, to practice showing up even when it's hard, to practice being the kind of partner, friend, or lover who understands that real connection isn't built in grand gestures alone, but in the quiet, repeated decisions to care, to listen, to stay present, even when the world is loud and demanding and pulling you in 1,000 different directions. Because when you truly understand this, you stop asking what you can get from a relationship, and you start asking what kind of energy, honesty, and integrity you are bringing into it. And that shift is where everything begins to change, where love stops being something you chase and becomes something you cultivate day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment, even when you're tired, even when you're unsure, even when the future isn't clear. Because real love doesn't require certainty. It requires commitment to growth, to respect, and to the understanding that the strongest relationships are not those without struggle, but those where two people decide again and again that the connection is worth the effort, worth the patience, worth the vulnerability, and worth continuing, even when the next step feels uncertain, even when the path ahead isn't fully visible, even when all you can do is take one honest step forward and trust that the rest will reveal itself. And that's where faith in the process begins. Moving, not blind faith in another person, keep loving, but faith in the work. Faith that showing up with sincerity matters, even when the results aren't immediate. Faith that consistency builds what intensity alone never can, because passion may ignite a relationship, but discipline sustains it. The discipline to communicate instead of withdrawing, the discipline to ask questions instead of making assumptions, the discipline to love someone as they are while still encouraging who they can become. You have to understand that every meaningful relationship will go through seasons of closeness and seasons of distance, seasons of joy and seasons of strain. This doesn't mean something is broken. It means something is alive. And just like anything alive, it requires care. Neglect doesn't always look like abandonment. Sometimes it looks like complacency. Sometimes it looks like taking someone's presence for granted because they've always been there. Never underestimate the power of small acts done with intention. A message that says, "I'm thinking of you," a pause before reacting, a willingness to truly listen instead of preparing your response. These moments may seem insignificant, but they accumulate. They become the foundation that holds when storms arrive. And storms will arrive. There will be moments when love feels heavy, when effort feels one-sided, when doubt creeps in and asks whether it's worth it. In those moments, remember this: every relationship that matters will ask something of you. The question is not whether it will be hard. The question is whether the growth it demands aligns with the person you are becoming. Because relationships are not meant to save you from yourself. They are meant to walk with you while you do the work. They are meant to challenge your patterns, not enable them. And when two people are willing to do that work individually and together, the relationship becomes more than comfort. It becomes a catalyst. You stop running at the first sign of discomfort. You stop confusing peace with avoidance. You stop believing that love should never feel difficult. Instead, you learn to distinguish between healthy challenge and harmful patterns. You learn when to lean in and when to step back. You learn that boundaries are not walls. They are bridges to respect. And perhaps most importantly, you learn that loving well starts with knowing yourself, your needs, your limits, your values. Because when you understand who you are, you stop asking relationships to fill voids they were never meant to fill. You stop begging for validation. You stop shrinking to be chosen. You start choosing yourself, and paradoxically, that's when healthier connections find you. Real love doesn't rush you. It doesn't pressure you to abandon your standards. It doesn't thrive on confusion. Real love may be imperfect, but it is intentional. It is steady. It is willing to have uncomfortable conversations because it values clarity over control. And when you show up that way, grounded, honest, accountable, you change the dynamic of every relationship you enter. You become someone who loves without manipulation, who communicates without cruelty, who stays curious instead of defensive. You become someone who understands that connection is not about possession, but about partnership. Because the strongest relationships are built by people who know that love is not something you find once and forget. It is something you choose again and again, even on days when it would be easier not to. Even when fear whispers that vulnerability is risky. Even when past wounds try to convince you to close off instead of opening up just a little more. Because healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in safe connection, in shared effort, in the courage to remain present when everything in you wants to retreat. And as long as you keep choosing awareness over autopilot, intention over impulse, and love over ego, the story doesn't end here. It keeps unfolding, one decision at a time, one honest moment at a time, one relationship that teaches you a little more about who you are, what you deserve, and that unfolding is where transformation lives. Because when you stop treating relationships as destinations and start seeing them as journeys, everything shifts. You stop demanding certainty from the beginning. You stop expecting someone to arrive fully formed, fully healed, fully ready. Instead, You learn how to walk alongside growth, yours and theirs, with patience and intention. You begin to understand that love is not proven by grand promises about the future, but by consistent behavior in the present, by showing up when it's uncomfortable, by staying emotionally available when it would be easier to shut down, by choosing kindness even in moments of frustration. Because respect does not disappear just because emotions run high. And in that space, accountability becomes a form of love, not control, not criticism. Accountability that says, I care enough about us to be honest. Accountability that invites reflection instead of defensiveness. Accountability that understands mistakes are inevitable, but avoidance is optional, because real repair is one of the deepest expressions of commitment there is. You also learn that silence can be louder than words, that unresolved feelings don't disappear just because they're ignored, that clarity is a gift, even when it's uncomfortable to give or receive. And so you practice speaking your truth without weaponizing it. You practice listening without preparing your counterargument. You practice holding space, not just filling it. Over time, relationships stop being places where you perform and start becoming places where you rest, where you can exhale, where you don't have to prove your worth because it's already understood. And that kind of connection isn't accidental. It's built through mutual effort, emotional maturity, and the willingness to be seen without armor. But make no mistake, this level of connection asks something real from you. It asks you to let go of old narratives, to unlearn patterns that once protected you but now limit you, to stop equating intensity with intimacy, chaos with passion, and uncertainty with excitement. It asks you to redefine what love actually feels like when it's healthy. Healthy love feels steady. It feels grounded. It feels safe enough to grow and strong enough to endure. It doesn't disappear when life gets busy. It doesn't collapse under honest conversation. It doesn't require you to abandon yourself to maintain it. And when you experience that, even briefly, it changes your standards forever. You stop settling for inconsistency. You stop romanticizing emotional unavailability. You stop chasing potential and start valuing presence, because you finally understand that love should not feel like a constant test. You should feel like you're on the same team. So you keep choosing awareness, you keep choosing growth, you keep choosing to love with intention rather than fear. And even when relationships end, you don't leave empty-handed. You leave wiser, stronger, more aligned with who you are becoming, because every connection leaves an imprint. Every relationship shapes how you love next. And if you're paying attention, if you're truly paying attention, you start to see that the purpose of love is not just to be happy, but to become whole, to learn how to give without losing yourself, to receive without guilt, to stand in your truth without closing your heart. And as long as you continue choosing that path, the journey continues. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but with meaning, with depth, with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are showing up as your best self again and again, even when it's hard, even when it's uncertain, even when all you can do is take the next honest step forward and trust that the connection, whether it lasts a season or a lifetime, is still teaching you exactly what you need to learn. And that next lesson often arrives disguised as patience. Patience with another person's process. Patience with your own healing. Patience with the timing of things you cannot force, no matter how deeply you want them. Because love does not operate on urgency. It operates on alignment, and alignment cannot be rushed without being distorted. You begin to realize that forcing connection only creates resistance, that chasing reassurance only deepens insecurity, that the strongest bonds are formed when two people are choosing each other freely, not out of fear of loneliness, not out of habit, but out of genuine desire and respect. And that understanding brings a sense of calm into how you love. You stop gripping so tightly. You stop reading meaning into every pause. You stop equating someone's bad day with rejection. Instead, you ground yourself, you communicate, you trust the consistency you've built, rather than the anxiety your mind tries to invent. And that grounded energy becomes contagious. It stabilizes the relationship itself, because emotional maturity changes everything. It turns conflict into conversation. It turns triggers into invitations for growth. It turns misunderstandings into moments of clarity. Not because problems disappear, but because the way you handle them evolves. You learn to pause before reacting, to ask, what is this really about? To recognize when your past is speaking louder than the present. And in doing so, you stop punishing the person in front of you for wounds they didn't create. That's not easy work, but it is necessary work if you want real connection. And when both people are willing to do that work, something powerful happens. The relationship becomes a place of healing instead of harm, a place where vulnerability is met with care, not exploitation, where honesty is met with understanding, not defensiveness, where love is felt not just in words, but in the safety of being fully yourself. You also come to understand that love is not measured by how much you sacrifice, but by how well you sustain yourself while loving. That burnout is not devotion. That self-abandonment is not loyalty. Healthy love allows space, it allows individuality, it allows breathing room without creating distance. And so you stop fearing independence in a relationship. You stop confusing closeness with enmeshment. You learn that two whole people create stronger bonds than two people clinging to each other for stability. Because wholeness attracts wholeness, and when that happens, love becomes expansive instead of consuming. At this stage, relationships stop feeling like something you're trying to get right and start feeling like something you're learning to honor. You honor the other person's humanity. You honor your own. You honor the process even when it's uncomfortable, even when it requires difficult choices, even when it asks you to walk away from something that no longer aligns with your growth. Because choosing yourself is not the opposite of love. It is the foundation of it. And when you truly understand that, you no longer fear loss the same way. You trust that what is meant to grow with you will stay, and what cannot will make room for something healthier. So you keep moving forward with openness, with discernment, with a heart that has been tested but not hardened. You keep believing in connection, not as a fantasy, but as a practice of showing up honestly, loving consciously, and choosing growth over comfort. Again and again, knowing that this journey doesn't have a final destination, only deeper levels of understanding, deeper levels of courage, and deeper levels of love waiting to be discovered, as long as you remain willing to continue, to be continued,